Today is October 17th, 2025. This is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
Have you ever seen the TV show America's Most Wanted?
No.
I haven't either.
Okay.
But I've sort of seen maybe snippets of it or advertisements for it. It basically, I remember, I could be totally wrong, so you guys all who are listening to podcasts can correct me on this. But I think it's just presenting the most wanted people in America, on the top 10 from the FBI wanted, and then like all the world is going after them, pursuing them. I think so. And then with the millions of viewers, oftentimes they can get some people captured. Well, David is kind of on the Israel's.
Well, he's on Saul's most wanted list for sure.
Yeah, so if there was a TV show back then, Saul's most wanted, it would have been David.
David would have been number one.
Yep.
That's been since chapter 19, when Saul tried for the second time to spear David to the wall, pin him to the wall, and then Michal, his wife, helped him escape.
Just like at Alcatraz with the image and the hair. He's sleeping, and then he escapes away. But he's been on the run.
Ever since chapter 19.
Yeah, and this is going to take us through actually the rest of 1 Samuel, because David and Saul will never reconcile. Like, he cannot be in his presence again because Saul is so jealous. The spirit has left him, and he's going to kill him, is what he's going to do. So we saw him yesterday, betrayed by Doeg the Edomite, and today we're going to see him really betrayed by the Ziphites, who tell Saul about where it is that he was revealed. And then chapter 24 comes about one of my favorite stories about David sparing Saul's life in the cave. Okay, here we go. Chapter 23. Now when they told David, "Behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and are robbing the threshing floors." Therefore David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go and attack these Philistines?" And the Lord said to David, "Go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah." But David's men said to him, "Behold, we are afraid here in Judah. How much more if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines?" Then David inquired of the Lord again, and the Lord answered him, "Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will give the Philistines into your hand." And
I like that David inquired of the Lord again.
Yeah.
Well, in verse 2 and 4, he inquired of the Lord.
Just showing how he's dependent upon the Lord, how we should live. With any major decision we have in life, just depend upon the Lord. And I think the situation, he's on the run anyway, so why are you, he's trying to save his own hide, and yet he is willing to fight the Philistines. And David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their livestock and struck them with a great blow. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah.
Wow. Still victorious even when he's on the run.
Yep.
Verse 6, when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, had fled to David at Keilah, he had come down with an ephod in his hand. Now it was told Saul that David had come to Keilah. He's got his spies looking out for David.
Yep.
And Saul said, "God has given him into my hand, for he has shut himself in by entering a town that has gates and bars." And Saul summoned all the people to war, to go down to Keilah and to besiege David and his men. David knew that Saul was plotting harm against him, and he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring the ephod here." Then David said, "O Lord, the God of Israel, your servant has surely heard that Saul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city on my account. Will the men of Keilah surrender me into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord, the God of Israel, please tell your servant." So there he is inquiring again.
Yeah, this is the third time in this chapter.
And the Lord said, "He will come down." Then David said, "Will the men of Keilah surrender me and my men into the hand of Saul?" And the Lord said, "They will surrender you." Then David and his men, who were about 600, that's a lot of people with David, his men who were about 600 departed from Keilah, and they went to wherever they could go. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he gave up the expedition. Wow. He just gave up. That's amazing. And David remained in the strongholds in the wilderness, in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God did not give him into his hand.
David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph at Horish. And Jonathan, Saul's son, rose and went to David at Horish and strengthened his hand in God. And he said to him, "Do not fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Saul my father also knows this." And the two of them made a covenant before the Lord. David remained at Horish, and Jonathan went home.
Verse 19. Then the Ziphites went up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, "Is not David hiding among us in the strongholds at Horesh, on the hill of Hachilah, which is south of Jeshimon?"
So here the Ziphites are doing just what Doeg the Edomite did in chapter 21 and 22.
Yeah.
They're just kind of revealing to Saul, hey, here he is. Go get him. Like This is almost like they watched Saul's Most Wanted on television and they found it out. And so they go to Saul, the leader of the FBI, and says, okay, why don't you go chase him down? They're going for the arrest.
Okay, verse
But
20.
David proves elusive.
Yes. Now, come down, O king, according to all your heart's desire to come down, and our part shall be to surrender him into the king's hand. So they're glad to turn David over to Saul. Verse 21, and Saul said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, for you have had compassion on me. Go, make yet more sure, know and see the place where his foot is, and who has seen him there. For it is told me that he is very cunning."
I love that.
"See therefore, and take note of all the lurking places where he hides, and come back to me with sure information. Then I will go with you. And if he is in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah." And they arose and went to Ziph ahead of Saul.
Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the Arabah, in the south of Jeshimon, and Saul and his men went to seek him. And David was told, so he went down to the rock and lived in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men went on the other side of the mountain. And David was hurrying to get away from Saul, and Saul and his men were closing in on David and his men to capture them. A messenger came to Saul saying, "Hurry and come down, for the Philistines have made a raid against the land," like major distraction. So he's about to capture David, and he gets his news. The Philistines are back there. So Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore, the place of that rock was called the Rock of Escape.
Wow. Just things that God orchestrated to protect David.
Yeah. And again, I think
turn Saul another direction or turn Saul away.
Yeah, this metaphor about America's Most Wanted and the FBI pursuing this manhunt and chasing him down, and they're converging, and then they break into the house, but he'd left like 3 hours earlier, and then they go and they find him, and sort of that's what's happening here.
Or they find some other issue that they have to address instead, like the Philistines.
And David went up from there and lived in the strongholds of En-Gedi. Okay, so chapter 3, we see David on the run. 23, we see David on the run, but he's still on the run. He's been on the run for a while. So I think the big thing here is just as Doeg the Edomite revealed his hiding place, so the Ziphites reveal his hiding place is the big thing here.
Yes, and that is Psalm 54 talks about that. The superscription of Psalm 54 says, "To the choir master with stringed instruments, a maskil of David, when the Ziphites went and told Saul, is not David hiding among us?"
Yep.
So that's exactly this time.
Yeah, and these Psalms, Psalm 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, are about David in the wilderness fleeing, and Psalm 52 was when Doeg the Edomite revealed his hiding place to David as well.
Yeah.
To Saul. Revealed David's hiding place to Saul.
Yeah, so those are really helpful to read right along with this because we get more of David's heart and his dependence on God and his trust, and in spite of all the trouble he's going through.
Yeah, and I think that's where big application comes in this.
Yeah.
Is that even when being hunted down, like the first verse of Psalm 54, "O God, save me by your name and vindicate me by your might. O God, hear my prayer, give ear to the words of my mouth. For strangers have risen against me. Ruthless men seek my life. They do not set God before themselves. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life." So even we see all these things about David running, and we might say, oh yeah, well, just Saul's chasing him. No, there's some spiritual lessons here in terms of God has chosen to record the Psalms of what David was talking about in these times. Not only seeking him in chapter 23, but also just trusting him in the midst of being pursued. Okay, so now we come to chapter 24, one of my favorite stories. It just shows how David's heart was not a heart of vengeance.
Yeah.
And I think
it's
that...
amazing.
Yeah, like David is called a man after God's own heart. I think this is it. Like he's just trusting the Lord with things. He could kill Saul. Saul's been pursuing him, trying to spear him several times. David hears a chance to kill him in the cave. He says, no. So chapter 24, verse 1. When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, "Behold, David's in the wilderness of En-Gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men in the front of the wild goats rocks. So David, remember, had 3,000 after 600.
Yeah.
And he came to the sheepfolds by the way where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. So the question here is, what does it mean to relieve himself? Whether he needed to urinate or whether he was sleepy and tired and wanted to sleep in the shade. I'm not exactly sure. But David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave, and the men of David said to him, "Here is the day of which the Lord has said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you." And they're whispering because he's like trying to hide
They're
from
in the
David.
same cave.
Then
Must
David,
be a big cave.
Yeah.
But...
Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And afterwards David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And he said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed." So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way, totally clueless at what took place in the cave. But just even here, his heart is smiting him because he is doing this to the Lord's anointed. David really believed that...
cut off a piece of his robe.
Yeah, David really believed that Saul was the anointed. He was anointed already in 1 Samuel 16. He had become king, but he's just trusting that in God's time that will take place.
Okay, verse 8. Afterward, David also arose and went out of the cave and called after Saul, "My lord the king!" And when Saul looked behind him, David bowed with his face to the earth and paid homage. And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, 'Behold, David seeks your harm'? Behold, this day your eyes have seen how the Lord gave you today into my hand in the cave. And some told me to kill you, but I spared you. And I said, I will not pour out my hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, the corner of your robe is in my hand. For the fact that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you, you may know and see that there is no wrong or treason in my hands. I have not sinned against you, though you hunt my life to take it. May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you, but my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancients says, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? May the Lord therefore be judge and give sentence between me and you, and see to it and plead my cause and deliver me from your hand.
As soon as David had finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, "You are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. And you have declared this day how you have dealt with me, in that you did not kill me when the Lord put me into your hands. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away safe? So may the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me this day. And now behold, I know that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Swear to me therefore by the Lord that you will not cut off my offspring after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house." And David swore this to Saul, and then Saul went home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold. So, like, Saul listens to him and spares his life here, but it's only going to be short-lived.
Yeah.
And pretty soon he's going to be after him again.
David cuts off a corner of Saul's robe in the cave.
Yeah, so I just know that I know the story well, so I just said my summary. David spares Saul's life in the cave. Because we're going to see tomorrow, or on Monday, or Tuesday, we're going to see on Tuesday of how David spares his life in the camp. In the cave 24, in the camp 26.
Okay.
All right,
helpful.
We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Okay, goodbye.